What's kicking, everybody? We are back for another episode of Pickin Fights. I'm Keith, joined as always by my good friend Tom. Tom, how are you today, bro?
Oh, it's Friday. We just saw the press conference last night. The fighters are weighing in. I'm fucking amped, dude. How are you?
I mean, I could say the same. This is going to be an incredible card. It's everything that we've been dreaming of and more. We spoke about it last week, how there's 3 fights on this card that really make up the meat of the event. And those 3 fights are going to be spectacular. I just can't wait to see what happens. But, I think our thoughts, right? This is almost our last minute, our last minute episode before UFC 273 starts and kicks off tomorrow. And I've noticed maybe we've had some shifts in opinion since we went live with Joe the other day. And, you in particular, you texted me a video of Aljamain Sterling. And, feel free to throw it up on the screen now if you want to. But,
all right, here we go. You ready?
Yep.
134.5. 134.5, the official weight for the champion Aljamain Sterling.
Let's go! I'm back, baby!
I don't know. Something about the passion in that. I think this is a guy who came back from neck surgery. He's finally feeling good about himself and his body. I think he's probably been able to train harder than he ever has before. I mean, you've seen the picture of him. He looks absolutely shredded. Made weight, no problem. His real downfall last time was that he gassed out too quickly. He had the nervous energy. And I think at the end of the day, I think he's going to come in smarter. I think he's going to manage his energy and his stamina and his cardio better. Even when he was tired in the 3rd rounds and even in the 4th round, he was still landing on Jan. I think Aljo has every ability to come into this with, I think he has the ability to keep Jan on his back foot. Jan on his back foot is really hard for him to get off the type of fighting that he wants to fight. He keeps a really, really high guard, so he's going to have the midsection open. So Aljo coming in there in the best shape of his life. I think we're going to see the best cardio Aljo we've ever seen. Hits to the body, hammering that front leg. I was just watching Jan fight Jose Aldo. And Jose Aldo was doing very well in one of the fights that he probably arguably had done his worst at 35. I like Aljo, man.
See, that's so interesting because it's such a different change in tune from what we saw the other day. And, funny question from Tyler Hohenschelt. How many calories did he eat? I bet you he's probably saving all the rough calories till after the fight. He's
100%.
He's still eating healthy. He's still drinking a ton of water. The biggest thing is rehydrating after that weight cut. But, I think for me, I'm still on, Team Peter Yan because, listen, man, you go back and you watch that last fight and it was utter domination from Peter Yan. And, of course, Aljo landed.
Adam?
Hey, what's up? And, of course, Aljo did land his shots. And these are all things that I did say last week. We all said it, the neck, the cardio, the stamina management. But I think one of the biggest things for him that failed him in the last fight, and, he needs to really think about going into this one, is the actual game plan itself, not just in terms of stamina management, but he needs to be more fundamental this time around, relying more on a simple jab and a simple leg kick, potentially, we said this too, it could be a 5-round decision fight, potentially focusing on more point striking rather than, doing a lot of the things that he did the last time with a lot of spinning attacks and a lot of looping punches and, just crazy stuff that not only gassed him out, but Peter Yan is really wise to. I'm still sticking with my potential Aljo by knockout via flying knee pick. I think that is, if you could pick a direct method for how it was going to happen rather than just knockout, what type of strike would be thrown, that would probably be a plus 50,000 pick, but I'd still throw $10 on that. You know, I'm still with Piotr Yan in this one though, because looking back at that last fight, we said it the last time, the takedowns early were all in Piotr Yan's favor, and the striking was in his favor. And you know, doing simple things like just sweeping the leg, it was just all around Piotr Yan, and that's why the odds, you know, the odds reflect that last fight. Clearly, Vegas thought that they'd be on par the way that you do now. The last time around, because it was very close with the minus 105 line for Yan and the plus 105 for Aljo. I mean, right now it's just so disparaging. In a way, it does feel like a trap. And this year with really huge odds, you know, one Juliana Pena over Amanda Nunes. But Aljo, I feel like, also has an air of like this false confidence. At the end of the day, we all have those champions that we love to hate. And Aljo, if he does keep the belt for me, I mean, for me, he'll be that guy that, you know, this cocky, false personality that he has, where one moment it's like, I'm the bad guy, you know, and treat me as such. And then the next moment it's like, you're mean to me, Ariel Helwani. Be nice to me. Shut the fuck up. You know, I have flip-floppy feelings about Aljo. But I don't think he's completely out of this fight. I'm just still with Piotr Yan here. You know, that's the way I'm feeling it. But I do get your feelings on that. Do you have anything else that you want to say about this one? Because, you know,
well, we could take Adam's question real here. Adam says,
yeah, that's a good
hey, if
one.
I'm picking one fight and one fight only, where's the best place to put my money tomorrow? And you know what, Adam? I think Aljo and Yan go to the distance. I think that's the best place to put your money. You know, I think also Volk gets his finish this week. I think he's been looking for that for a while now. And I think you have the Korean Zombie coming in here. And I talked about it on an earlier show. I talked about it at OTH MMA that we put up last night. I think the Korean Zombie was offered this fight immediately following Max Holloway dropping out. And the original targeted date was for March. And the Korean Zombie was not healthy enough to take that fight for his what's probably his last opportunity at a title shot. However, he's going to be ready April 9th. I don't know what kind of injury it was. It said it was undisclosed. So I'm not exactly sure what that injury was or how he healed up massively better in a 3-week time frame to be able to go out there and put on an A+ performance. But, I mean, if you just think about yourself and injuries, if you're too injured to fight 3 weeks before you're supposed to, or you're too injured to fight at one date, how are you perfectly healthy and going to come in there 100% 3 weeks later? I don't see that happening. You have a 35-year-old, 36-year-old TKZ who his name is the Korean Zombie because he gets hit in the face. He likes to keep his chin out there. He likes to, I forget what it's called, scouting punches. So he's trying to make his opponents come in there and hit him. He's going to pull back and then counterpunch. He's heavy on his front leg, and I think Volk is one of the best leg kickers in the game right now. I think he's going to terrorize his leg. He's going to terrorize the body. I really do think that the aging TKZ is going to get finished here by Volk. And Volk's been adamant and vocal. Volk has been vocal that he wants that finish.
Yeah, I like that pick a lot. I mean, while we're live here, I can log into my FanDuel real quick. That is the bet that the book that I typically prefer to use. And I'll tell you right now, as long as they're up, I mean, it is Thursday, so maybe they aren't, but I do like that pick for Volk by finish quite a bit. Volk by knockout, because, you know, he's not exactly like the best Brazilian jiu-jitsu practitioner on the offensive end. Defensively, I mean, we saw it his last fight around. He's spectacular. But, you know, I think when it comes down to it, yeah, you're right. And you know, we've spoken about this numerous times in the past, that you can only continue walking forward and taking so many punches for your entire career before it comes back to bite you a little bit. And I think that maybe this is the fight, you know, I mean, we saw it against Brian Ortega with the Korean Zombie as well, where that chin, the damage that you take to your chin, it's tough. You can't do that for a whole career. By the way, the odds there, it's Alexander Volkanovski by knockout, minus 120. I like that
Hey,
quite a bit.
that's turning what, a minus 700-800 bet into a minus 120. Take that. I like that a lot. And I think Aljo and Jan to go the distance. If you could look that up next time you have FanDuel up, look that up. But I'm telling you, and I've said it before, I am on the Aljo train, and I've switched over to this fairly recently, but I'm on the Aljo train. I mean, I think these guys have very competent skill sets. I think, Aljo is not a wild puncher, but he's funky, right? He's coming from different angles. He's landed knees on Jan before. Here's the thing. In the third and the fourth round last time, he was too tired for those punches to do anything, but he was still landing extremely tired. I think if he can manage his stamina throughout the fight, I'm not saying he finishes Jan, but I really think, I mean, listen, when he got kneed in the head, 2 judges had him down a round, 1 judge had him up a round. If he keeps that stamina, he can absolutely take 1 more round. I like him a lot, man. I like him a lot.
So I think you'll actually be a little bit surprised at this, but to go the distance, yes, is minus 108, and no, or about the minus 110 range for yes, and for it to not go the distance is around that minus 125 range. So it's practically even. I think that based on like the odds for Aljo and Jan, they're more so looking at whether Jan will finish Aljo or he won't. But I think to not go the distance, which was your pick, right? To not go the distance?
No, I think it's gonna go the distance. I don't think either of these 2 guys finish each other. And here's my other reason for picking Aljo. I don't see a way where the main 3 fights on this card end the way we expect them to. I don't think we're gonna get a Kamayev. I don't think we're gonna get a Chimaev, a Jan, and a Volk win. I don't think it's gonna happen. I think one of those 3 guys are gonna lose. I don't see Khamzat losing. He's a giant person. He is going to listen. Jiu-jitsu is it doesn't work as well when the guy you're competing with is bigger than you, and he's just as, if not more, skilled. He's younger, just as good, if not better, stamina. His knockout power is that of someone potentially in the 205 division. And then you also take into account that what's the best base for MMA right now, Keith?
In my opinion, or I'd say probably wrestling more than anything. I think
in your opinion, in pretty much everyone's opinion at this point, wrestling is probably the best base for MMA. I think a really good wrestler, especially one that weighs more, beats a jiu-jitsu guy. We haven't seen Gilbert Burns submit anyone at 170. He's only submitted 2 people at 55. I don't see how Khamzat loses. And we already talked about Volk versus TKZ and the disparity there. I think those, some people are saying those lines are a little bit too far apart. I mean, I think, I was on yesterday with my guy Jamie Frodo from Overtime Heroics. He said that might as well be a minus 10,000 line. I think that's a little bit crazy, but
that's obscene.
I don't. I mean, obviously that's obscene, but I don't see Volk losing. I don't see Khamzat losing. That leaves us up to Jan and Aljo, and I think Aljo at a plus 340 underdog is that's not fair.
I think they probably should have used the odds from the last time around, but that's why I think it almost feels like a little bit of a trap, and especially this like fixed up Aljo, surgery wise and cardio wise, everything about him. He's low body fat, even lower than the last time, with more muscle than the last time. I do like that pick. And I have kind of gone back on my Gilbert pick just ever so slightly. I mean, I will still sprinkle a little bit on Gilbert because we just know who he is. But, just looking back at his fight history a bit more and watching some more tape on Gilbert Burns, I mean, the guy was finished by Dan Hooker. And, for a guy that you want to beat Khamzat, who has, knocked guys out in the UFC, you don't want to see him get beat by a guy who's more typically a point striker kind of guy like Dan Hooker. But I still like Gil ever so slightly because of that leap in competition. And, you want to speak to the mindsets of these men, the way that you did with Aljo. I think Khamzat, while he is definitely the more technical, skilled fighter, and I did say this, it's his fight to lose more than anything, because you never know. I mean, everybody can be confident on the surface, but you never know what sort of pressure Khamzat may be feeling below the surface. I don't really see him as a guy that feels pressure. He seems confident as anyone. He just seems like a fun guy to be around more than anything. But I also, I think maybe that step up in competition, it's weird. I think maybe this is the week that we find out if Khamzat has a chin, or if he's just surpassing the top level of that division right now, of that welterweight division. It's so hard to say, but his mentality looks weird. He's a guy that looks really strange right now at the press conference. He looked almost bitter at Gilbert Burns, almost angry. And I've never seen a guy that looked like this before. And Gilbert Burns looked so laid back, more laid back than he ever has. And, going in to fight Kamaru, Gilbert Burns looked that same way, upset, a little bit angry. The respect level wasn't really there. And I think that Kamaru fight might have taught Gilbert Burns a lot of things that he didn't know beforehand. So I think a minus 10,000 line is just absurd to go with, and not to, keep bringing that up. All respect to everybody over at OTH.
Well, he said that about Volk, not about Khamzat.
Oh, I apologize then. But, I think that's still obscene. That's still a little bit absurd. But, I think that when it comes to Khamzat, it's just such a step up in competition that to even have him as big of a favorite as he is, or as he opened at, is still just a little bit crazy. We saw him last against Li Jingliang, and you want to talk about not beating anybody notable, Li Jingliang, come on.
Hey, well, hold the phone right there. Don't be talking shit about the best MMA journalist in the game right now, Li Jingliang. His questions yesterday were great. I thought it was very interesting that he's up there and he's rooting on Khamzat. He's, a fan in his corner. I mean, what kind of fighter do you have to be to beat somebody so bad that they become a fan of yours? I mean, I think ultimately that speaks to, the character of the leech, Li Jingliang. But I mean, he seems like, hey, he is all aboard the Khamzat train. And, after that win, how could you not be?
Yeah, look at how Khamzat beat him. I mean, he manhandled him like he was his child, essentially. And, I think it's very much like any other sport. If you get knocked out of the playoffs in football by, a team, you're clearly going to root for that team to win it all, because you don't want to lose to anybody but the champion. And I think that that's probably where that mentality for the Leech comes up quite a bit, where it's like, this guy beat me in devastating fashion. Now, please go do that to everybody else, so it doesn't look like it was just me that stunk against you. But, it's just, and yeah, maybe, he was a great journalist. Maybe that's a career change for him that he should look into. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. All respect. But
good question here from Tyler. What's the word on Ian Gary? Heard he can chirp. So Ian Gary, just so anyone who doesn't know, Ian Gary was saying at one of his interviews that he thinks he is the next Conor McGregor. I think he even said, like, who talks better than me, Conor and then me. And I'm like, or he said the only two people who have ever been better on the mic than Ian Gary is Conor McGregor and Chael Sonnen. And I mean, I can name 3 quotes from Chael Sonnen and 6 quotes for Conor McGregor. Can you tell me anything that Ian Gary's ever said ever?
The only thing that I can tell you that Ian Gary said was another Conor McGregor quote. It's almost embarrassing because, listen, I still have him as my pick for that fight, and I saw your parlay that you're going with Darian Weeks. I still think that Ian Gary, like I said last episode, that this is like a boxing-esque matchup where Ian Gary is being set up for success. But, and it could go either way. I do respect the Weeks pick. But I think when you aspire to be somebody else so badly, it sets you up for failure more than anything because, there were moments, I believe there was one interview before the Aldo fight potentially where, McGregor sat down with Chael and they rattled it out on the mic and, they had their conversation, but never once before that or after have I ever heard Conor McGregor say, well, I'm just like Chael Sonnen or Chael Sonnen's better on the mic than me. It just came natural. And I think that Ian Gary is maybe trying too hard to be somebody that he's not, and he's trying to be one of his heroes. And it's great to look up to somebody, but don't try to be someone that you're not. If you're really a nice guy deep down, be a nice guy or develop a new character. But don't just say he's Irish, I'm Irish. We're both going to be the same guy.
Yeah.
It's sad to see because
And
I think he has a lot of potential.
I mean, listen, I think that guy is getting caught up in his own hype train, and that's not going to be a knock on Ian. I mean, I guess it is a knock on Ian Gary, but it's not necessarily a knock on his skill set, but I think it's more or less the mentality coming into it. Darian Weeks is not somebody to take lightly. He has been great up until this point. He is a long, rangy guy, and he can fight with the best of them. He doesn't have the knockout power. I think he's got a real puncher's chance here, especially backed up by the fact that Ian Gary is in his own sphere, and I think he's kind of looking past Darian Weeks a little bit. And we've seen very recently, and all throughout sports, especially the UFC, that if you don't take your immediate threat, your immediate challenger with the utmost respect, it comes back to bite you in the ass. And I think that we may see that from Ian Gary here.
Yeah, the best example that I can think of that from this past year is, a guy that we've spoken about and given a lot of love to in the past, Kai Kara France, when he was going to fight Cody Garbrandt. Cody Garbrandt literally had a face-off with Sean O'Malley, and they're not in the same weight class anymore. So I think that that's a major example where it's like, if you overlook the guy that you're set up for, you're setting yourself up for failure. But I still like the Ian Gary pick. It's just down the road, it is going to come back to bite him in the ass. But, Darian Weeks, like I said the last time, stylistically, I think that this is a great matchup for Ian Gary. But if you're in your own head too much and you're just not paying attention to, like, you're thinking forward and it happens in the fight, it'll come back to bite you. It'll definitely come back to hurt you.
Question here from the best second grade teacher in New Jersey, Caitlin Haley. Who's the better striker, Volk or TKZ? Keith, you want to take that first?
I mean, it's the easiest question that we've gotten all day. Shout out to Caitlin. Thank you for the comment. But without a doubt, it's Volk. Volk is the type of guy that will just walk forward, which the Korean Zombie is as well. So this is going to be an interesting battle.
The name Zombie.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting battle to see who the true aggressor is throughout 5 rounds, if it lasts that long, but which we don't think it will. But it's going to be interesting to see who really tries to walk the other man down. I think maybe if the Zombie gets Volk on his back foot, it's going to be a tough night for Volk. Tougher. But Volk, without a doubt, is the better striker. He changes things up so well. Body, head, body, head, leg, body. It's just so impressive the way that he does things. It's such a tactical mind. So, Volk, without a doubt. I'm sure you would agree.
Yeah, I do agree. And I mean, I think, it could depend a little bit on, at what stage of the career we're talking here. But as for Saturday, I think, Volk is the much better guy standing. I think Volk probably has the better overall wrestling and grappling. I mean, we've seen him. He's not going to be a submission threat per se like the Korean Zombie is, but he's like one of the first guys that I would say absolutely in no way can get submitted. And I mean, watch him go get submitted somehow by some crazy fashion on Saturday.
No, but he stood toe-to-toe with Max Holloway for 5 rounds twice. So, without a doubt, he's the better striker than the Korean Zombie, because I don't think that you would see the Korean Zombie, like, be awake at the end of a fight with Max Holloway. So,
that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah. So, and not only a better offensive striker, like we said, but he's also a great defensive striker where he checks a lot. He checks almost everything that you throw at him. He's got great head movement. Why weren't there any face-offs? Well, that's a great question. I don't have the answer to that. Tom, do you?
Yes, I do actually.
Oh,
because Dana White was traveling. He wasn't able to make it there. And here's another thing that, we talked on the OTH channel about. Make sure you give them a follow and a look over there. OTH MMA on YouTube, OT Heroics MMA on Twitter. Well, here's the thing. John Jones posted a picture of him at Fogo de Chao in Las Vegas yesterday. Dana White was traveling. Why was Dana White not in Jacksonville? I wonder if he was meeting with John Jones. I wonder if we're going to see John Jones versus maybe Stipe Miocic. Shout out Jamie Frodo MMA. But, hey, so here's the deal. He couldn't do it. He couldn't be there. He was there for, today in the weigh-ins. But John Anik had been in the middle. He had done lineups before. He had done, those face-offs before. I think the last one he had done was between John Jones and Daniel Cormier that ended up in a brawl. Right. And since then, he decided he's not going to do it anymore. So I think that's a little bit why we didn't see it. But also, they also did line up Volk and TKZ, but they didn't do anybody else. Now, maybe that's because they thought Khamzat and Gil Burns were potentially going to get contentious and maybe start throwing hands. But, I mean, what I don't understand is, well, you don't line up the 35ers, right? Because, Aljo and Jan, they have bad blood. So maybe they're going to fight, right? Maybe Khamzat and Gil is going to fight, even though that's totally out of character for Gil. And then, I mean, they could have at least lined up Tisha Torres and Mackenzie Dern. Like, I know all the thirsty guys in the audience would have appreciated that.
Oh, yeah. There would have been a lot of guys going home and thinking about that one. But, I think, yeah, you spoke absolute truth to that. I know there was like that little bit of an impromptu, sort of face-off between Aljo and Piotr Jan. And I just saw Anik step right out of the way. It was kind of comical. He wanted nothing to do with that whatsoever. It was really funny. But, I think when it comes to Gil and Khamzat, they met each other in the hallway already, I believe, on one of the embedded videos. And it seemed like there was no real bad blood until the media scrums and then the press conferences came around, in which Khamzat, maybe he's trying to sell the fight a little bit. Maybe he's trying to sell his personality a little bit. But, he seemed a little bit angrier at that point. So maybe that's when they said, okay, let's not do this with these guys. And the Korean Zombie and Volk, they seem to just be, very sportsmanlike all the way through. They were signing, I'm not sure what they were signing, waivers, posters, whatnot. But, there was another episode of Embedded where the Korean Zombie came up and shook Volk's hand. After the fact, he said, he looks small. But which Volk is notably a pretty short guy for MMA, for a UFC champion. But, there's definitely no bad blood between the two of those guys. I think there was hints at it with Khamzat potentially later. Aljo and Piotr Jan. I mean, Piotr Jan said, I'm going to kill your team. Me and my team are going to kill his team. And
why is nobody going after him the way they went after, like, anybody else was it Colby? Was it Connor? Somebody was saying like, I'm going to kill him. And they're like, that's too far. That's too far. Like, how dare you say that?
Right. It was Connor. It was Connor against Dustin. I believe the quote to Joe Rogan was, he took my kindness for weakness, and on Saturday night, he's going to pay with his life.
He's going to pay with his life in that octagon Saturday night. It was great.
Exactly. And people were really getting after Connor. I mean, I personally was like, wow, old Connor's back. Let's go. And then, major letdown. But
not his fault.
Yeah, but it's weird because, dude, Aljo's team is Merab Davishvili and Raging Al Iaquinta. And, dude, I mean, Merab is all about it. Merab's like, fine, we'll take his team outside and we'll kill him. And while he's saying that, Al is just standing off to the side. And he's like, I don't know why he brought me into this. I had nothing to do with this. Like, I want no beef. We're teams. Like, it's not like we're the fighters. Just do it in the octagon. But the more that we talk about this, the more that I sort of agree with, your point about how maybe Jan is a little bit too overly aggressive, overly angry, feels like he was robbed, as opposed to Aljo, who's just confident. But yeah, it is really interesting to see the difference in the two. I think potentially because Piotr Jan didn't say it in English.
Yeah, that
Maybe
was
that's what
interesting.
it is. Yeah.
Well, I think Jan is I think he's like not a big like audience type of person. Like I don't think that's just the environment that he thrives in. Even though he's a fighter, I think he's actually pretty probably reserved in his personal life. So I just don't think maybe that's the best environment for him. But I was really happy to see, just a full main card at the press conference instead of
Yeah.
doing these like just the main event or a main event and one other. I was really happy to see that. One thing I wasn't happy to see is Biggie Boy Rosenstrike is not fighting tomorrow because his opponent got sick.
Yeah, I was definitely disappointed about that because we were both riding so high on the Biggie Boy train. It just seemed like such a clear-cut win for him this week. Yeah, major disappointment. And Biggie Boy he felt like a lock more than anybody, but hopefully that means that next week's fight night, or I believe it's next week, which is Bilal Muhammad versus Vicente Luque in the main event, gets a little bit more spiced up with a Biggie Boy knockout. So maybe it gives us something else to talk about next week that we can really look forward to. I do want to say, full card press conference. There were a lot of guys that were picking Mackenzie Dern to win this one because, like we said, attractive women with OnlyFans in the UFC, they do seem to get a little bit of favoritism from the fans out there. I think there were a lot of guys that were confused when Tisha Torres stepped on stage because, let's be honest, she looked fantastic. And, credit to whoever did her makeup and her outfit ahead of time because we were all out there pretty impressed with that. So there might be some people, not myself, I'm still going with Mackenzie Dern in this one, who are going back on their picks, based on what Tisha Torres was looking at.
I was going Tisha Torres from the beginning. I'm staying with Tisha Torres, not because of how she looked, but I think we may all be able to agree that those two women might have the best shoulders on that stage.
Shoulders, arms, faces.
They were looking jacked. So and I like the trash talk that they tried to have, where like Mackenzie Dern's like, oh, what are you gonna do when I take you down? And Tisha's like, well, I'm gonna get up. Like, what do you expect her to say, right? And it's like, well, what about when I put my hands around your neck? It's like, well, it's not gonna happen. Like, I don't know what kind of trash talk she was hoping to get, and then they both kind of smiled and laughed, and they were like, I guess this really isn't our thing. And then everyone else was like, all right, like, good try. Next.
Yeah, I totally agree with you on that. It's not really those women's forte. The only woman that I've seen that's really, really good at trash talk is Valentina, and it's not even that good because, let's be honest, like she knows that she's going to go out there and beat everybody. Amanda Nunes took her hand at it when she fought Juliana Pena, and she was like, you're never going to get this belt. And then Juliana Pena did get that belt. So good trash talk needs to be backed up. But let's see. Do we have any other questions from the people at home, or should we wrap this thing up?
I'm not seeing any other questions that we haven't hit. Right. Tyler wanted us to clip something because he thinks it's going to happen, but don't remember what that was. So, hey, listen, unless we get any other questions here, I think we can put a bow in this one for our post weigh-in show. I think this is something that we're probably going to end up doing a little bit more of now that we have our kind of streaming capabilities back up. By the way, drop a comment in the section and let me know, what do you think of the new background? We just got it installed. The camera's working. Hopefully I'm a little bit less choppy than I was on our earlier show. Hopefully I'm coming through a little clear. We can see the eyes and all that stuff. So, let me know what you think. I've decided to go, what do you guys think? Let me know. Should we go no glasses? Should we rock the shades? I mean, what are we thinking? What are we thinking for the look here? You know, we're still kind of figuring out what who we are and where our stride is. We're still trying to hit it. So, we want to hear from you guys. Let us know what you want to hear, what you want to see, what you want us to talk about. I don't see anything coming through, so I say we go ahead and put a bow in this one. I can't wait for the fights tomorrow. Keith, do you think we go live tomorrow? Maybe we do a little bit of a fight companion?
Oh, we see. This is the big question that we're trying to answer right now. Well, I'll tell you what, Tom, the only place that people are going to find out is on our Twitter at _Pickin winners, on our Instagram at _Pickin winners, pickinwinners.org. Stay tuned. I'm going to put up my final blog for my bets. And, on our YouTube, which make sure that you're liking, subscribing, and any questions that you have, comment down below, especially if we do go live during the fight tomorrow. If you have any questions about anything, about potentially a decision, you don't agree with something, or you just want to get your thoughts out there, dude, comment down below. Let us know what you think. And Tom, I will say I love the background. You look fantastic. It really brings out your eyes, man. Really brings out those brown eyes.
Oh, yeah. I mean, well, that's one vote, no glasses. I know Caitlin Haley is voting. That's 2 votes, no glasses. So it's 2-0 right now. We'll see what it ends up being at. Hey, everybody. Thanks for everyone who tuned in. Thanks for joining us. We'll be back maybe tomorrow. This is what we're going to do. We're going to put a poll on our Twitter on Pickin winners. Make sure you check us out and vote on the poll. Tell us what you want to see. As for now, take it easy. I can't wait for the fights.
Thanks for joining.